Noah had always felt different. As a child, he couldn't explain why he could sense things before they happened. The way his mother's mood would change before she even spoke, or how he knew his father's accident was coming hours before it happened. He tried to tell people, but they dismissed him, calling it just imagination. But deep down, Noah knew it wasn't. There was something else. Something lurking beneath reality. A force whispering in the spaces between moments, guiding him toward something he couldn't yet understand. It all began when he was 7 years old. That night, he had a dream so vivid it felt real. He stood in front of his house, watching as flames devoured the walls, licking at the sky like hungry beasts. He could hear screams, feel the heat on his face. And then he woke up. Terrified, he ran to his parents' room. But they assured him it was just a nightmare. Until the next night, a fire broke out in the house next door, the exact way he saw it in his dream. That was the first time he realized something was wrong with him. The first sign. Noah wasn't just a normal boy. There were signs, things no one could explain. Like how he always knew when someone was lying. Like how he could hear voices when no one was there. Like how animals never feared him, as if they knew he was different. And then there was the old man. It was a cold evening, the streets covered in mist, when Noah met him. He was sitting alone on a park bench, wrapped in a long, tattered coat, his eyes piercing through the fog. "You are marked, boy," the man had whispered. "Your path is written, but beware. Those who see the truth are always hunted." Noah's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" The old man simply smiled. "You will understand soon." Then he was gone, vanished into the fog as if he had never been there. The awakening. Years passed. Noah grew older, but the strange feelings never left him. He tried to ignore them, tried to be normal, but the signs only got stronger. He started seeing patterns in reality, random events that felt too perfectly aligned to be coincidences. A whisper in the wind before a phone call. A shadow moving in the corner of his vision when no one was there. A sense of something watching him, always. It wasn't until his 21st birthday that everything changed. He was walking home when it happened. The streetlights flickered. The world around him seemed to shift, like a dream breaking apart. And then he saw her. A woman standing at the end of the street, bathed in silver moonlight. Her eyes locked onto his, and in that moment, he felt something ancient awaken inside him. She knew. She knew what he was. And as she took a step forward, whispering his name like a secret the universe had been waiting to reveal, Noah felt the ground beneath his feet tremble. He had spent his whole life running from the truth. But now the truth had found him. And it was only the beginning. Noah stood frozen. The woman at the end of the street wasn't just looking at him. She was looking through him. His pulse pounded. Every fiber of his being screamed run. But his legs wouldn't move. Then she spoke. "You've felt it, haven't you?" Her voice was soft, yet carried an authority that sent a shiver down his spine. The signs, the dreams, the whispers. Noah's breath hitched. How did she know? "Who are you?" he managed to ask. She smiled, stepping closer. "I've been waiting for you." The words sent a chill through his bones. Before he could react, she flicked her wrist. The streetlights overhead flickered wildly, then shattered all at once, plunging the entire street into darkness. Noah staggered back. What kind of power was this? Then, a whisper in the wind. A shadow moved, and suddenly they were not alone. The Watchers. From the darkness, figures emerged. 5, maybe 6, their faces hidden beneath dark hoods. They moved silently, surrounding him and the woman. Panic surged through Noah. Were they here to hurt him? Then the woman turned to them. "He's ready." A murmur ran through the group. One figure stepped forward, an older man with piercing silver eyes. His presence felt ancient, as if he had seen more lifetimes than he should. "Welcome, Noah," the man said. "We've been watching you." Noah's mind reeled. Watching him? Since when? His entire life suddenly flashed before him. His strange dreams, the way strangers always seemed to recognize him before he recognized them. The old man in the park. Had this all been leading to this moment? You carry the mark, the silver-eyed man continued. The same mark all of us bear. You were chosen from birth. Noah swallowed hard. Chosen for what? The woman stepped closer. To see what others cannot. To stand between two worlds. To stop what's coming. The air around them grew heavy, almost crackling with unseen energy. Something was coming. And whatever it wasn't good. The test. Noah wasn't ready for this. But the silver-eyed man had other plans. If you truly are one of us, he said, then you must prove it. Noah frowned. Prove it how? The man raised a hand. The ground beneath Noah shook. The world around him twisted, stretched, melted. And suddenly he wasn't in the street anymore. The buildings were gone. The sky above was a swirling mass of light and darkness. Time felt strange here, as if past, present, and future were bleeding into one another. Noah turned wildly. Where was he? Then he saw himself, a younger version, just a child, standing in the distance, watching him with wide, terrified eyes. Noah's breath caught. This was a memory, the night of the fire, the night he had first realized he was different. But this time something was wrong. The flames were darker, moving unnaturally, and then he saw it. A figure lurking in the shadows of the fire, barely visible. A presence he had never noticed before. It was watching him, waiting. And in that moment, Noah realized the truth. The fire had never been an accident. It had been a warning, a test. And whatever had been watching him that night, it was still watching him now. Noah's heart pounded as he turned back, only to find the silver-eyed man standing beside him. Now do you understand? The man asked. This has never been about you. This is about what you were meant to stop. The flames roared louder. The shadows twisted. Noah clenched his fists. For years, he had been afraid of his past. Afraid of what it meant. But now he knew. This was only the beginning. Noah's breath was ragged. His mind reeled from the revelation. The fire, the shadow, the watching presence. It had always been there. The silver-eyed man, Elias, placed a firm hand on Noah's shoulder, grounding him. Now you see. Noah clenched his fists. What was that thing? Elias's face darkened. A hunter. A chill ran down Noah's spine. A what? Elias didn't answer immediately. He turned, gesturing for Noah to follow. The swirling vision around them collapsed, and suddenly, they were back on the street. Except, the world felt different. The sky loomed lower, the air thicker, heavier. The shadows stretched too long, curling unnaturally. Something was wrong. The woman from before, Serafina, was waiting. They know he's awakened. Elias nodded grimly. Then we don't have much time. Noah's pulse pounded. Who knows? Serafina turned to him, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The ones who've been hunting you since the day you were born. The truth about the chosen. Elias led Noah down a narrow alley, then through a hidden passage that seemed to appear out of thin air. One moment they were in a forgotten part of the city, and the next they were underground. The walls of the tunnel hummed with strange energy, ancient symbols glowing faintly along the stone. Noah touched one, and a jolt of recognition shot through him. He knew these symbols. He had seen them before, in dreams, in flashes of memory. Elias studied him. You felt the pull, haven't you? The way you see things others don't. The way you know things you were never taught. Noah nodded slowly. I thought I was just different. Serafina chuckled softly. You are, but not in the way you think. Elias continued walking. The chosen are not born randomly. Each one is marked before birth, prepared for a purpose greater than themselves. But why? Noah asked. For what? Elias stopped. To stop what's coming. A cold weight settled in Noah's chest. The hunters. Elias nodded. They feed on those like you, on your power, and when they find one of us, they don't stop until we're consumed. Noah swallowed hard. How many of us are there? Seraphina's smile faded. Fewer than there used to be. A beat of silence. Then the tunnel shook. The attack. The air split open. A horrible, high-pitched screech tore through the underground chamber, and suddenly, they were no longer alone. From the darkness they came, shadow-like figures, their forms constantly shifting, flickering in and out of reality. Their eyes, glowing red, burning with unnatural hunger. The hunters. Noah's breath hitched. He knew these things. He had felt them watching him in nightmares, had sensed them lurking in the edges of his childhood memories. Elias's voice was urgent. They found us faster than I expected. Seraphina's eyes gleamed gold. Then let's make sure they regret it. She raised a hand, and the tunnel ignited with light. Golden energy burst forth, slamming into the nearest hunter. It shrieked, twisting violently before vanishing into a wisp of smoke. But more were coming. Too many. Noah's heart pounded. He had no weapon, no training, but something inside him shifted. A deep, primal knowing surged through him. His body moved before his mind caught up. His hands raised instinctively, and energy exploded outward. The nearest hunter was caught in the blast, thrown backward with a guttural screech. Noah staggered back, stunned. Elias's eyes widened. He's awakening. But there was no time to celebrate. More hunters poured in, their hunger relentless. Elias grabbed Noah's arm. We have to go now. Seraphina blasted another hunter, but she was slowing. They couldn't fight forever. Noah turned, heart hammering. They weren't ready for this, and if they didn't escape, they wouldn't survive. The escape. Elias yanked Noah forward. Through the rift. Noah barely had time to register the meaning before Elias slammed his fist against the stone wall. The air ripped apart. A swirling vortex. Asterisk asterisk not quite light, not quite shadow. Asterisk asterisk opened in the middle of the chamber. A gateway. A way out. Seraphina grabbed Noah's hand. Jump! Behind them, the hunters howled. The tunnel was collapsing. Noah took one last breath, then leaped into the unknown. Falling into the unknown. The world vanished. For a moment, there was nothing. No ground, no sky, just an endless, twisting void. Then light. Noah crashed onto solid ground, gasping for air. Elias landed beside him, rolling to his feet effortlessly. Seraphina followed, her eyes scanning their new surroundings. Noah sat up, heart still hammering. Where are we? Elias exhaled. Somewhere safe. For now. Noah looked around. They were standing in a vast open field, under a sky unlike any he had ever seen. The stars above shifted and danced, forming patterns that felt familiar. Seraphina knelt beside him. You did well, Noah. Noah shook his head. I barely did anything. Elias smirked. And yet you're still alive. That's more than most would manage. Noah's hands trembled. He had felt the power inside him. It had surged out like an uncontrollable storm, raw and untrained. But it had been real, and that terrified him. What was he becoming? Seraphina met his gaze, as if reading his thoughts. This is just the beginning. Noah swallowed. He already knew that, because deep in his bones he could feel it. Something was coming, and it wasn't going to stop until it found him. Noah's heart thundered in his chest as he looked up at the strange sky. The stars shifted and pulsed in unfamiliar patterns, whispering something just beyond his comprehension. The air here felt charged, alive with an ancient power. Elias and Seraphina stood beside him, their gazes fixed on the horizon. They'll find us soon, Elias murmured. Seraphina's golden eyes burned. Then we make our stand. Noah clenched his fists. The power within him still hummed, wild and untamed. He had barely scratched the surface of what he could do. But he knew one thing: there was no running anymore. The hunters were coming. And this time he would be ready. The truth revealed. Elias led them toward a towering structure in the distance. A temple of black stone and shifting light, humming with the same energy Noah had felt since awakening. As they approached, Seraphina touched the stone, and a doorway materialized. Inside, the walls were lined with glowing symbols, the same ones Noah had seen in his dreams. He reached out, and the symbols flared to life. Memories rushed into his mind, visions of those who came before him, the chosen who had fought against the darkness for centuries. He saw their battles, their sacrifices, and at the center of it all, himself. Noah staggered back, his own face reflected in the memories of the past. Seraphina stepped forward. "This is why the hunters have been after you." Elias nodded. "You are the last of the chosen, Noah, the final piece in this war." The weight of their words crushed him. He wasn't just anyone. He was the end, or the beginning. The final battle begins. The air ripped apart. A chorus of screeches erupted as the hunters descended. Dozens of them, their shadowy forms twisted unnaturally, eyes glowing red with insatiable hunger. Elias and Seraphina sprang into action. Golden fire erupted from Seraphina's hands, carving through the darkness. Elias moved like a shadow, his twin blades slicing through the void-born creatures with precision. But there were too many, and they were coming for Noah. Noah's breathing grew ragged. The power inside him pulsed. It wanted out. This was it, the moment he had been running from. Noah closed his eyes and let go. The energy exploded outward. A blinding light erupted from his body, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The ground cracked, the very air hummed with raw power. The hunters reeled back, shrieking. For the first time they were afraid. Noah opened his eyes, and for the first time he understood. He wasn't just the last of the chosen. He was their weapon, a being born of light and chaos, the only force capable of erasing the darkness. And in that moment he embraced it. With a single outstretched hand, Noah called forth the storm. Lightning and fire, light and shadow. All at once he became something more. The sky split open as the hunters howled in agony, their forms disintegrating in the inferno of Noah's unleashed power. The last of them vanished into the void. And then silence. The battle was over. A new dawn. Noah stood amidst the ruins, his breath heavy. Elias wiped his blade clean. "You did it." Seraphina stepped beside Noah, her gaze filled with something between awe and relief. "They won't come back." Noah looked at his hands. The power still simmered beneath his skin. But now it was his. For the first time he wasn't afraid. For the first time he knew who he was. Elias placed a hand on his shoulder. This was only the beginning. Noah exhaled. He knew. But this time he was ready.